Strong imitative skills. So this is a huge positive attribute for kids with Down syndrome. They are very good at imitating. You can show them something, you can have another child show them something, and they really benefit from that. Does anybody have an example of?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Could you differentiate between motor imitation and verbal imitation? Because I found that kids do motor imitation really
Yep.
well, and verbal imitation, it's kind of dependent on the kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm talking more about motor imitation. Yeah, the verbal imitation is definitely much harder. Yep. And one of the big things here in terms of teaching, working with students from a therapeutic perspective, is that they have a great deal of difficulty generalizing skills. All right. So generalization means that you can learn something in one place, learn something with one person, learn something with one set of materials, and then generalize it. All right. And typical kids will often do that. We know from the more significant a child's cognitive impairment is, the more difficulty they're going to have generalizing. All right. So, and this is definitely a conversation that occurs with parents. You know, the parent will say he's able to do this at home. At school, you don't see it at all. Anybody have an example of something a child with Down syndrome had difficulty generalizing?
I just think this one little girl I can think of, like she would put her own shoes on after the therapy session, but not at home. Like
She'd put her shoes on.
Yeah, it was like she learned it there, she
Yep.
was doing it there, and then she wouldn't do it anywhere else. I don't know if that was like learned helplessness at home, or if she just was like rigid in that she'd only do it in this one setting. So.
Right, so what you're making reference to there, so you said you weren't sure that she wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that we look at is whether we're talking about a skill deficit or a performance deficit. All right, so once the child has shown you that they can do it at school, you know it's not a skill deficit. It's really a performance deficit, and you have to figure out how to facilitate that performance in another setting. So that's a good example. I think of, just kids putting things away like after lunch, what they do at school versus what they do at home. So all these different expectations, but so that's really where you have to have communication with parents. But the other thing is that you have to build in teaching of generalization. So if you taught her how to put on her shoes in one environment, you're probably going to have to teach her how to do it at least once or twice in another environment, or share that with the parents. So any other examples of either successful generalization or problems with generalization? Yep.
This is kind of similar, but one of the students I work with is able to go to the bathroom on the big toilet at school, but will only go on a small toilet.
Well, yeah, definitely the toileting is definitely an area where you see a lot of generalization issues. One of the other things that students that have to put their name on the paper, you know, if the name is written at the top with a line, they'll do that. If there's no line, they won't do it. So really sort of trying to build in some of that consistency, but also pulling away some of those supports so that they'll generalize.